This doesn't fit into a category, so let's just talk about it because you and I both have played it and had some interesting experience with it. I'm talking, of course, about Diablo 4. I'll just tell you, spoilers, it's not in my top 15 or my honorable mentions.
Okay. All right.
Diablo 4 is a good game that I played like 30 hours of. I played a lot of it. I played a good amount of it. I think that it's a good gameplay loop. I think the graphics are sick. I think they're really good. It's a good feeling, good playing game that just kind of feels hollow. It just kind of feels like, I don't know if anything can capture what Diablo 2 did. Diablo 3 didn't capture it, and I don't think Diablo 4 captures it. Maybe it's because I'm not a kid anymore. I don't know. There's some magical element of Diablo 2 that has just not been replicated. In Diablo 4, I think it plays well. It runs well. It looks good. It's good with friends. I played it with friends. It's good. I think it's when you want to get in that mood for that Diablo style game, I think it's fucking solid. I think that it gives Diablo 3 a run for its money. And I think that it does a lot of things better than Diablo 3. I think it does some things worse, but I think that...
What does it do better and worse than Diablo 3, if you don't mind?
I think that the vibe in Diablo 3 is way off. I think that Diablo 3 is essentially a Warcraft vibe. Warcraft in its cartoony art style, in its poppy story, the way that everyone talks about you, like Diablo 1 and 2 are grim. They are grim games. Diablo 3 is like Hearthstone tone. Like Diablo 4 returns to that grim tone, and I think it does it really well. We played the demo and we both played the opening cinematic where you get to not the opening cinematic, but the opening section is a small little town in the snowy area, and you found out these people are like cultists. They get you drunk. They send you on a meaningless task. They get you drunk, and then you're slapped on this table and dragged away, and you're going to be butchered for parts.
And it was sick.
And it's cool. And that's the kind of tone that I think it sets the tone right, and I think the game continues that. Like I said, it's not bad. It's not on the game. It's not on the list of games I want to play less. Like I'm not done with Diablo 4. I definitely don't think I am. I think it's one that's gonna, like Diablo 3. I played a little when the year came. I beat it when it came out, and then a few years later, I got back into it on Switch, and then I got back into it on PS4. I got into Diablo 3 at like 4 separate points. I think the same is going to happen for Diablo 4. But the reason why it's weird is that I had a lot of momentum for it. I was playing it for like an hour every day, and then I lost that momentum and I've just had no desire to go back. And it's because they wanted to, with this game, instead of making a game that you beat, like a single player game, they wanted to game the system. They wanted to make a game that's never done. They wanted to make a game where there's randomized side stuff that always refills, always goes back. You go back to the same area, you can play that same snowy area and just do that. And part of the completionist part of my brain, I just kept redoing shit in the same area, and it was fucking boring. And I should have been moving on, but I'm like, oh, but I didn't collect this or do this side quest. Yes. And I was trying to do all these side quests, but these side quests kept popping up. And I kind of realized, I even saw a quote from the devs that are like, we want people to play Diablo 4 forever. And I think that that's just like, wait a sec. These games are always just a grind. These games are always a grind, but the grind in some of the other games is disguised in a way that's fun. In this one, sometimes it's just so clear that you're grinding, that you're on a hamster wheel and you're just grinding and grinding and grinding. And it's like you're never going to get to the destination. And I don't know, I just kind of hit a wall, and like I barely got out of the first act. I played 30 hours of the game and I barely got out of the first act out of 5. And in Diablo 2 time, I probably would have beaten the game in 30 hours. Like it's just like I was just kind of stuck doing these things over and over and over again, and it just kind of got repetitive. And that's my personal experience with it. I'll let you chime in just a sec, but I will say the reason why there's the critic difference is there is an infamous patch that came out that nerfed basically. I forget which class it was. It was either the Necromancer or the Druid.
Just to remind everybody, the Metacritic score, I think, is like a 2.2, and then the actual score is like an 88 or something. I'll look it up, but I did have the numbers on that, and it was such a clear divide.
And I haven't played since the patch, but it's not because of the patch. It's because that's happened to be where I lost momentum too. But I remember in some Discord, I remember it was just like, hey, have you heard about this Diablo patch? Like everyone's pissed about it. I'm like, what's everyone pissed about? And the reason is Blizzard just gonna be Blizzard. They're gonna do things, the modern Blizzard, I should say. They used to have a sterling reputation. Now they're just tinkering with shit to the point where they're like, Diablo 4 was a good game. And what they did to make it worse is that people were finding OP builds. And then they nerfed those builds. And it's like, wait, getting your character OP is like fun. And it's also like this, there is a PvP element that's like a separate thing, kind of like Souls games. It's a separate thing. But when you find an overpowered build in Dark Souls, that's where shit is fucking the most fun. That's when the shit is the most fun. You're like, the game is so hard. And then you find a combination of moves, a weapon that works for you, something that clicks and it kicks ass. And so, but the idea is that why did they need to nerf an overpowered setup that is probably niche and not that many people are going to find anyway? And it's essentially a single player or cooperative game. Like you want to be OP against the monsters, and instead they nerf that. So it's like nerfing stuff in like a single player kind of game is like, what the hell are they doing? And then they like, the reason why the score is so low is because they've walked it back, but without actually reversing the patch. They like try to talk their way out of it, and they've nerfed a bunch of other stuff and rejiggered this and whatever else.
The truth is like you've outlined the problem with the game, right?
Yeah.
Like they've created this game that's supposed to be played forever, and it no longer becomes fun as a single player person to play it. And I have a great experience with that because I never really played Diablo 2. I think I have a copy that you and I might have played once online.
There's the remaster, the Diablo 2 remaster, which I think you bought and we played a little bit of, is really good.
I would be down to continue that.
I'd play more Diablo 2 remastered online, yeah.
But Diablo 3 was the one where I first got Diablo 3. I got it for my Switch and I got it on PC or PS3 or PS4 or something. Like I bought like a couple different versions. And you came over. Remember I lived in Silver Lake?
Yeah,
and
I remember
played,
that.
Like multiplayer locally, and it was like, all right, this game's tight. And
Diablo 3, I trashed it, but I will say it does a lot of things right. It was the game that made that it actually plays better on a controller than it does on mouse and keyboard. And I played Diablo 4 with a controller because of Diablo 3. I cannot believe they did such a good job making it work on a controller. Diablo 3 kicks ass on a controller, and it kicks ass multiplayer.
And it kicked ass so much that even though you and I probably started like 5 different characters.
Yeah, that's what happens.
On random nights where we were gaming together. But I also started a 6th character, and I played through Diablo 3 single player the whole way on my Switch, handheld, and it was a great experience. And having a single player experience where it's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, this is not hard. It wasn't hard. No. Near the end, I was murdering everyone. I had all the things. But the fact at the end of the day is that I paid $60 for a game, got to enjoy the completion of it, felt like, great, that's fun. If my friends ever want to play it with me, I'll play it. But I close the door. Feels like the thing that they're missing with Diablo 4, because here's the truth. I played with you guys when it was like the free Burger King, or what was it?
Yeah, so it was KFC. The reason why Cal hasn't played the full version of this game, but Cal and I both played the beta version a few months before, or a month or two before it came out. There is this promotion where if you bought any sandwich from KFC,
you guys know how to get me.
Your receipt,
all game companies out there.
Yeah, your receipt will get you access to the open beta or whatever. And not only did Cal and I do this, we have 2 other friends who I personally know went to KFC to get a sandwich that day to get this. I know 4 people total who did this, where you get I got like whatever, the spicy chicken sandwich.
Liz 3. Yeah.
And then we got access to the open beta, which you got to play for like the first like 20 hours, which is a lot, which is more than most games, which is insane. So like we played a lot of that open beta. You played on the PS4, correct?
I played on the PS4. There were some issues. Like it wasn't a perfect.
It's not a good frame rate and didn't have the enhanced graphics. And in a game like this, that's so repetitive and so grindy, I do think the aesthetics and the frame rate matter more in this case, because if you're going to be going through this process, it should look and feel awesome. And if it doesn't,
That game, for instance, came out next year. right? And that was the one moment I had with it, and it didn't have all this plaguing issues. I would be stoked to play more. Like I think the game is actually really fun.
Yeah, it plays great.
The big disappointment to me is like just also make it fun for one person to play on their own in their Switch or whatever,
and I think it is, but also it's always online, so playing handheld.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's like the issue is now. I mean, let's face it. If you're playing like a Tony Hawk game, yeah, I want my guy to have 99 stats and be able to do like who cares? The goal should not to be to limit my potential.
This isn't a competitive game.
Godzilla on this.
Yeah, exactly. This is a power fantasy.
They're all afraid.
Also, when you increase the difficulty in these games, it just means that everyone has tankier health and you're just in each combat encounter longer. It's not more fun or strategic. It just means you have
friends
against
rodents and shit. Like, it's not like we're fighting each other. It's like it feels good. Like you said, power fantasy. It feels good to just steamroll and maybe get to a point where you can't steamroll and then you have to, I don't know.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm not done with Diablo 4. I do think that it will be something I revisit over the years, but it's a frustrating experience. And I will say, just a quick comparison structurally, I was talking about all these randomized side quests and activities to do. There's no shortage of things to do. It's just the same old shit. But Diablo 2, including the DLC, or as we used to say back in the day, expansion, there's 5 acts. Each act has 6 quests. Those, while the layout of the levels is randomized every time you play, it's a randomized layout, so it's always fresh and different and interesting. The main beats,
idea.
Yeah,
very cool concept for 91 or whatever.
For the 96, and then Diablo 2 was 2000. But basically, the main beats of the quests were the same, even if they were in slightly different locations. You were 6 quests per act, and you go through, and there's a lot you could grind in between and level up, and there were other side things you can do. But the fact that there was such a clear structure is you have to do 6 quests per act, and then you get to the end. And some of the quests are optional. You don't even have to do all of them. But I didn't appreciate that at the time until playing Diablo 4, where there's just so many fucking quests and activities that they're throwing at you. Where I'm like, I kind of wish there was just a streamlined, like, hey, do these 3 things and move on to the next area so you can get some variation on some enemies and locations and shit, instead of staying in this snowy area where I'd never even left the snowy area after 30 hours. So
that was kind of my point with, I think Diablo 3 gets a bad rep, but also it was a fun single player game. At the end of the day, it was great, but like it doesn't seem like they really gave a shit about a Diablo 4 single player game.
Blizz,
only a multiplayer experience.
Blizz says I'll hate Diablo 4 because they pulled all the developers off of was it Heroes of the Storm? Is that what the game is? HOTS. Yeah, I think Diablo 4 is a good game, but I will agree with you, Blizz. Do you know what they did to get the developers of Diablo 4? This is gonna hurt you too, Cal. Not only did they pull devs from HOTS to work on Diablo 4,
THPS5,
dude, the studio that remade Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remake was, if that was this year, that would have been the winner for best remake. That game is sick. That game is awesome. They shut down that studio. They shuttered it completely and moved all of those devs on to Diablo 4. So all of the people that put in all the work to make that Tony Hawk remake that kicked ass, and I had this dream that they were going to add a DLC of Tony Hawk 3 levels or Tony Hawk 4 levels, like the same bones they used, the same graphic engine. If they just added level packs to that same game, that would be fucking sick. It would be like Thug Pro, that fan project.
Levels.
But instead, they shuttered the whole company and put them on Diablo 4. And it's just like, that's a crime. And the thing is, Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remake was very successful. It sold well, made huge numbers for them. And the idea that they would just shutter all of that, not make any more, we're not going to see any more Tony Hawk remakes for a long time. And that's a fucking drag. So anyway, Diablo 4, don't hate it, but man, some frustrating and disappointing aspects of it.
Yeah, now I do.
Now I do.
I just feel like Diablo 3 gets a bad rap, and I actually really liked it. So that's why I wanted.
Diablo 3 is not as good as Diablo 2, as I've said, but Diablo 3 is a fun game that I've played a lot of, and all the stuff you said about it is totally legit. I've beaten it as well. I haven't beaten Diablo 4. I beat Diablo 3 the year it came out because it still had that kind of classic, like, 20, 30 hours, you're done with the game, even with a lot of grinding in between.
Truth was for Diablo 4 is I realized, and maybe I just saw it or maybe not, but in my head I was either like, this game's fun because I had a lot of fun playing during that window.
Mm-hmm.
It was either like, I'm either going to find time to actually have to game with the boys and do it like this, which I don't have right now, and I don't see enough of a single player thing to make me want to buy it. So I became a non-buyer, which I think is, just want to send a message. All the fucking publishers out there, I guess it is, that's a real fucking problem for me. So I understand the Metacritic user giving it a 2.2.
Yeah.
There's an 86 Metacritic.
It's a shame.
It's talked about it though, because it does seem like a sick game, and I wish that I played it and stuff, but
plays real well. There's just some design flaws that I think can be fixed, but like I said, I don't think I'm done with it. It's not a love or a hate. It's just there. It was a huge game, and it was a game that had a lot of hype for many years, and it kind of came and went, and kind of unceremoniously. It was hot for a weekend there, and KFC probably did some big numbers for that promotion. Good for them.
Great move by the
it got me going to KFC. I haven't gone to KFC in a long time.
Bro,
and
chicken sandwich, some French fries, a Diet Coke.
It didn't make me go back after that, but I did not hate that chicken sandwich. It was fine. I was like, oh, not bad.
I've become a Popeyes guy lately.
Popeyes chicken sandwich is solid.
And I think Popeyes is all right.
All right, so I'm glad that we don't have Diablo 4 in any other category, so that was our chance to talk about it, and we did.
But they trashed the next THPS, which I agree with you on, Blizz, so that's why I'm, the liquor's going on my end.